In today's Whiteboard Leadership moment, I want to give you some multi-site musings. By no means am I saying this is the exhaustive list of what to think about. Really, it's just a few big rocks to think about. If you're thinking about, should we multi-site or not? What does it take, and how should we begin? In Converge, we have lots of multi-site and multi-congregational churches, and all of them have gone through this struggle, and some of them actually didn't think about these things, and so they've come back and said, how do we think about it? What do we do? They've hired organizations and spent lots of money, or they've just come to their districts and their national office or other churches in Converge and just asked for help, and we've gladly helped them with these kinds of things. So here's just three things to think about. The first is this: discern your motivation. Why do we want to go multi-site? I remember as we began to think through multi-site, we were already a very large church, and people began to look at me and assume a motivation. They would ask me questions like this: well, how big is big enough? How big? And the fact is that we had a 10-acre campus, and we were doing 5 services, and they were all packed, and it's not a bad question. So I had to answer that question. Why do we do this? But their thought was, so how big is big enough? That wasn't the question. See, our community was growing like crazy, and there were very few churches in the area. We had land, we had a base of operation, we had opportunity, and we had thousands and thousands of people who didn't know Jesus. And I said, that's the wrong question. The question we need to ask is this: which zip code do we leave out? Which zip code do we not take the gospel to? And then when they heard that, they're like, you're right, we've got to move forward. And our motivation wasn't just we ran out of space. The motivation was the harvest was plentiful, but the workers were few. You just got to make sure that your motivation isn't about you, that it's about God. It isn't about your church and the size of it. It's about the size of the harvest field and the opportunity to reach out. Second, you have to define your culture. One of the things that multi-site churches have to wrestle with is, do we have a culture worth reproducing? Now, we could reproduce the Sunday morning experience, but the Sunday morning experience is not discipleship. The Sunday morning experience doesn't change the community. The Sunday morning experience is not all there is to ministry. So what is it about your culture that is worth reproducing? What do you hope God does in another place that He's already doing here? What values need to move from this location to that location? What priorities need to move from this location to that location? What is the culture that you are trying to reproduce? The third thought is this: is to develop campus constants. What I have found is a whole lot of times, because people don't define their culture, they don't have campus constants either. Things that we're all agreeing on how we're going to handle money, how we're going to handle discipleship, what's the maturity process, how are we going to handle messaging. I've seen multi-site churches that have one logo on one campus, a different logo on another campus. One pastor's preaching something on this campus, the other pastor's preaching something completely different on this campus. I've seen lots of things that aren't constants, and it's okay when they have two congregations or 2 sites, and they begin to talk about those things. But when they get 3 sites, 4 sites, 5 sites, 6 sites, it gets really, really complicated. So the purpose of campus constants is to say, these are the things that we are all going to do. This is the message. This is how we're going to do messages. This is how we're going to do discipleship. These are the programs we're all going to have. And in that, there's really 3 questions to ask. Think about 3 columns. The first column is what we will all do. What are the things that all of us agree on that we will all do? Second column is, what are the things we agree on that we won't do, that none of us are going to do, that our church will never go this way? And the third column is, what's customized to each campus? Is it children's ministry or outreach or student ministry? It could be based on the facilities that you have. But the important thing is you have the conversation ahead of time, that you're proactive in thinking about the multi-site and not responding to the problems that result because you didn't think about discerning your motivation, defining your culture, and developing campus constants. I'd love for you to have this conversation with somebody today. This has been a Converge Whiteboard Leadership Moment. To learn more about Converge or to join us, check out converge.org.